serving vets and veterans moving forward. These three organizations today absolutely wouldn't have been possible. And for us here at the Military Women's Memorial, it's our mission to tell the stories of the 3 million women that have served the country from the Revolution through the present. And so today to hear from veterans in their personal experience, their firsthand accounts about the importance of service dogs and how they change lives. Not only change lives, I think in many instances they save lives. And so for today, it's very special for us to be able to amplify these stories, share them, raise awareness throughout the veteran community, and also highlight, I think, in speaking with a few people, the importance of reaching as a resource or understand what kind of a resource it can be for them. And so as we walk through the discussion today, I think those will come out, and we'll certainly be available to take questions and answers at the end. We already have a question from the... So without further ado, I'm going to do a round of introductions. The credentials of everyone up here are just amazing, so I tried to keep it brief just to give everybody some highlights of who everybody is. We'll start off with Jason Haag. He's the CEO and co-founder of Leashes of Valor. Jason, if you want to, well, yeah, there you go. Jason, well, with Dr. Sumner. Jason served 2 combat tours in Iraq as well as a tour in Afghanistan. In 2012, Captain Haag was paired with his service dog, Axel, who helped him overcome the effects of PTSD. Jason went on to tour the country, educating policymakers, veteran organizations, and warriors on the importance of service canines for military veterans. Service dogs prescribed for PTSD have not always had strong legal standing, but that changed with the introduction of federal regulations that protect their status while limiting abuses caused by emotional support animals. And Jason played a key role in that change. Also joining us is Danique Massengill. Danique, if you want to raise your hand. Nimitz is stealing the show. Danique is the president and co-founder of Leashes of Valor. She is a Navy veteran and an advocate serving the warrior and military communities. She served in the Navy from 2002 to 2007 as a Master-at-Arms second class and protective service agent. In 2013, Danique earned a bachelor's degree in European history and German literature and linguistics from Syracuse University. She went on to complete her executive MPA at the Syracuse University Maxwell School of Citizenship and Public Affairs in 2014. She also earned additional certificates, including a graduate certificate in conflict resolution for service dog policy and warriors with PTSD, and a graduate certificate in security studies from the from the Institute for National Security and Counterterrorism. We also have with Pam Jeffcoat, and Pam, you want to raise your hand? There's Pam. She's a retired Army sergeant from Yorktown, Virginia. During her 12 years of active duty service, Pam worked as a human resource specialist at installations around the world. Pam is the first female veteran to receive a service dog from Leashes of Valor. She was paired with Nimitz, who is with us here today, to help with symptoms stemming with MST and underlying trauma to PSD. Over the years, Pam has tried various methods of coping with the effects of PTSD, but it was her service dog, Nimitz, that she credits with saving her life. Pam shares her story in the hope of reaching other female veterans who are battling symptoms of service-connected PTSD. She wants them to know that they, too, can find healing. And we also have Maureen Norman, who is with Veterans Moving Forward. Maureen is over on the far end. Maureen enlisted into the Women's Army Corps and served through the transition to regular Army. That is amazing. She is also a proud charter member of the Military Women's Memorial. Prince, her service dog, will be 8 years old in the spring, and Prince is with us here today, and they have been together for almost 6 years. Prince is a mobility and TBI dog. And Kira Clark, and Kira, if you raise your hand. Kira Clark is the founder of the nonprofit organization Canines Serving Vets, which was born of the trials she faced after leaving her military career path. Kira earned a BA in Spanish language and Russian studies from George Mason University, which included travel abroad for immersion courses. While serving in the United States Army, she earned an Associate's Arts degree in Russian language from the Defense Language Institute Foreign Language Center at Presidio at Monterey, and then went on to serve as an interceptor. Kira was honorably discharged from the U.S. Army due to medical conditions and moved to the Northern Virginia area. She experienced firsthand how life-changing it can be when a veteran is paired with a service dog after partnering with her own service dog. She then became a strong advocate of helping other veterans in need of service dogs, leading to the founding of Canines Serving Vets. And lastly, we're going to introduce our moderator today, Dr. Gordon Sumner. Dr. Sumner is the president and CEO of Veterans Moving Forward, a nonprofit providing service and emotional support dogs to veterans at no cost. A member of the Santee tribe, Dr. Sumner has supported various veteran-supportive nonprofits, small veteran-owned and service-disabled veteran-owned small businesses. Dr. Sumner previously served as the national director for the National Committee for Employer Support of Guard and Reserve. He holds a Doctor of Philosophy and Adult Education from Madison University, MBA from Auburn University, a Master of Education from Boston University, and a BS in Music Performance and Music Education, Jacksonville State University. He's also a graduate of the John F. Kennedy School of Government at Harvard University. Dr. Sumner served 28 years in the United States Army. He is a decorated combat veteran, is the recipient of the Bronze Star Medal, Purple Heart Medal, and Air Medal. He also holds the Army Master Aviator Badge, the Master Parachutist Badge, and Ranger Tab. So what an amazing set of experts we have with us today. And with that, I will hand it over to Dr. Sumner, who will moderate the conversation. Then we'll do a summary round for everyone to share their final thoughts for a couple minutes. And hopefully, I know we'll have time for some Q&A from the audience as well. So with that, Dr. Sumner, it's yours.
Thank you, Kathleen. Really appreciate the opportunity to be here with these fine organizations and talk about the great missions that we are respectfully doing in conjunction and support of each other, because all three organizations realizes the importance of the mission. And Kathleen alluded to it earlier, not just allowing veterans to move forward with their lives, but also we are, in my opinion, a critical element in the suicide prevention programs that our nation is dealing with right now, especially with our veterans averaging 20 to 22 suicides a day. So having these programs out there, I think, is a critical element to what we're doing, and we hope that we'll be able to grow these programs and help more veterans. So to the panel members, thank you for taking time from your busy schedules to come out and participate as well today. It's good to see you. Let's start with our first question, and I'm going to start with Maureen, and we'll work our way towards me, and then we'll start it back around with the next questions. The first question is, Maureen, what was your experience in finding that right organization, which ultimately resulted in hopefully finding the right animal, the service dog that you have today, your battle buddy?
Well, I went online, really, and looked up service dogs for veterans and looked up, what the organizations were like and where they were and kind of how the whole thing worked, in terms of how, okay, now you have an organization, what is the process with them and so forth. And Veterans Moving Forward really kind of clicked for me because they focused on TBI as well as PTS. And so I started the application process, and my life hasn't been the same since.
Can everybody hear me? Very loud. All right, just making sure. For me, I actually did the same thing. I went online, and I think we've kind of taken the same approach, at least with Leashes of Valor. He was the first person that called me back, and that could actually process my application and answer the questions. I had, I think, 4 different organizations that I applied to, and 3 actually called me back. 1 never did. 2 said they couldn't give me a dog for probably 2.5 years, 3 years, something like that, and the other one said 6 months, and that's where I got Axel from. It was a great ride since that point, but I think the biggest thing that I learned was, yes, you can have an awesome website and a great application, but unless you're talking to somebody, it doesn't really work. So that was my journey.
Carol?
Hi. Mine was basically going to the VA, which did not yield results at all. I didn't know that service dogs did things other than guide dog and hearing. My mother saw a documentary, called me, told me. I called the VA. We don't know anything about service dogs. Shocking. What I ended up doing was figuring out my way. I figured out, okay, well, if they have guide dogs, maybe I'll go to that department, and they'll be able to tell me. So I kind of pieced my way along like that. My first dog, I went through 3 dogs. The one was supposed to be mine. We didn't match. The next one I had, unfortunately, got bloat, and they had to put him down. And then I got my girl Sassy. With this guy, it was 5 years searching and being disappointed. And like he was saying, some just didn't get back to me. One lost my application. It was just a nightmare. And that's kind of why I started my organization, so people don't have to hip-hop along until they finally find something.
Similar for me, my husband needed a service dog, so I originally found service animals for somebody else. And that's actually how Jason and I met, was through the organization where my husband and him received his service dog. And that's when I started my journey of applying and looking for a service animal. At the time, it was not as easy for females to qualify necessarily for a service dog. If you're non-combat related, not every organization would take you. So I did have difficulty finding the right fit, being paired properly, meaning being evaluated for what my needs are and what would be the most suitable service dog for me. So I was originally not paired properly, where the dog had poor level of training, and in the end I actually had to surrender that animal due to the lack of quality of training. So again, another reason why we started Leashes of Valor was my own journey of unsuccessfully being paired with a service animal and having that need and not finding originally the right organization to plug that need. So that's how I ended up being here, and I'm actually still on my journey of trying to work with the right animal and recover from a poorly trained service dog.
All you have to say is we're the best, and just pass it on.
They really are the best, though. With a Google search again. Is it close enough now? Just a Google search. I applied to another organization, but it was a very long wait. And then I found Leashes of Valor through a shared post on Instagram, and eventually decided to apply and got accepted with them. And I don't know what else to say.
Can I add-on question real quick? Can any of you answer if you had medical support from your care team to receive a dog? Because I think sometimes we either have the medical support from the VA or we don't. So if any of you can elaborate if you had the medical support to get that service animal.
I definitely did. In fact, it was my primary care doctor at the VA who said, I think you'd really benefit from a service dog. And that hadn't occurred to me at all. But once I kind of threw it out there, then the entire polytrauma got on board with PT and OT, everyone writing letters and certifying. And yeah, they were incredibly supportive.
For me, they didn't know anything about service dogs at that point, but once I brought it up and explained what it was, I didn't get any pushback. They definitely filled out any letters or anything that I needed.
My primary care at the VA hospital is awesome. I may not have the best experiences other places in there, but my doctor absolutely rocks. And he made sure that he got everything in that the organization needed, found out how they actually paid for me to go out there to get the dog training. She was at Fort Knox. And I mean, I have problems sometimes with the, prosthetics. Prosthetics is the VA department that deals with service dogs. And I have problems with them sometimes. They're getting me a leash and a collar. I'll get it maybe in another 12 months because I've been waiting 12 months. So I'm hopeful. But yeah, my doctor is great. Have problems with prosthetics, but as far as also medical, these organizations are awesome. I mean, I can call Veterans Moving Forward or Leashes of Valor and, hey, this happened, and I get assistance right away. It's, and that's why we're all working together.
What about your doctor?
Just a letter, the main one that's required for the application, stating diagnosis and.
Okay. Back to Maureen. Can you identify the major changes or changes that you've experienced in your life after you received Prince?
Wow. For one thing, I'm more physically active because I know that Prince is helping me to balance, and he's helping me get out more. He also helps me up when I fall. But he did actually save my life once in terms of almost being hit by a car. I'd had a bad fall. I was lying down in the middle of a street. I was unconscious, and it was wet. It was raining. It was poor visibility. And the people who stopped only saw Prince because he lay down next to me. He's shelter. He does this. And so they stopped their car initially because they saw Prince. And then they're like, oh, wait, there's a person there. Because I live in D.C. and black is in, as you can see. And so, yeah, I probably would have been run over without Prince. But he just encourages me to be more active. He helps me remember things. He's very routine-oriented, which is very helpful to me. And I don't know, we've done amazing things together. We do stand-up comedy together. We travel together, and yeah, he's everything to me.
Can you say this question one more time?
What's the major changes in your life? What can you talk about now that you've been with your service dog?
I mean, honestly, the biggest thing you can say right now is I'm sitting up here without my service dog. And the fact that transition and that journey has been completed. I think for us at Leashes of Valor, I would be considered one of the best success stories that we have. And the fact that my dog went through from A all the way to Z. And we have traveled the country, gone everywhere. He worked for almost 8.5 years. And now the fact that I'm actually able to stand up here, sit up here and speak and be able to do an event without my dog is a huge thing in my mind. So, I mean, yes.
For me, I would say this is Coda, but my first dog, Sassy, when I first got her, I had a very traumatic event, and I was very cautious, very on guard. And I remember one day being at the VA hospital and I'm waiting for my medicine. My name came up, so I get in line, and the poor guy behind me, I feel sorry for him now. The poor guy behind me, he was just, oh, hey, the line moved. And I turned around like, I mean, I almost decked him. And Sassy got between us, and I was kind of like, okay, all right, okay. And he was like, I was just less, it's okay. So, I mean, it makes you feel better that, I mean, even she's not going to physically do something to protect me, but her being there made me feel like, okay, I can come, I got this, it's good. So, I mean, and even with him too, it's, there are times you don't want to go out. There's times you just want to close yourself off. I mean, at the very least, you got to go outside and take them to the bathroom. So you got to get out at some point. And that's what they do for us.
I mean, even though I don't currently actively have a service dog, the fact of the matter is that they give you purpose. They make you get out of bed in the morning. They say there's no better alarm clock than when a dog starts sounding like they're going to vomit. So even on your worst days, there's a reason for you to get out of bed. And no matter what blanket of ugh we're going through the different phases of PTSD, TBI, MST, having a reason to get out of bed, to still be alive, and really those baby blues, those baby brown eyes, whichever color they are when they look at you, it's really hard to justify harming yourself when that animal is looking at you. So all the tasks aside, nightmare interruption, medication alerts, anything else, their reason for being is really, for many of us, why we're still around. On to you, Pam.
You took my answer.
Oh, I'm sorry. You have your own dog.
You can just say ditto.
Yeah.
Ditto, for real.
What
But
she said.
I'm here right now because of him. Was closer, I think, than I would ever have been comfortable admitting before to killing myself. Every day was a struggle, was losing hope. I've, of course, got my wife and our son, but that only carries you so far. And then I've had Nimitz for seven months now, and it's just, he's changed everything. Like everyone else has said, I have a purpose every day. We have to get out of the house at some point. I can't just lay in the bed anymore or not do anything. And again, like Danique said, you look in their eyes and you can't justify hurting yourself.
I'd like to add, she said that, they give us a reason and help us go on. I don't know if anybody here has done it, but my first dog, she passed away, and I was, it was a mess. And I remember that morning I woke up, and, of course, at that point, you don't want to get up. You don't want to do anything. And I got up, and he is sitting by the bed looking at me, and I swear his face said, "Okay, Mom, we're upset, but we got to get up and start our day." And I was just like, okay, all right, okay, I got it, I'm there.
Well, I'm thoroughly convinced that until somebody tells me different, one of the reasons why when we do place these service dogs, and at least our track record over the last 11 plus years at VMF, is that none of our veterans who have applied for or received one of our veterans dogs, one of our service dogs, has either tried to commit or been successful in committing suicide. Not a single one. And the whole reason is, as you've already identified, it's the purpose. It's the purpose in life. It's that outgoing of requirements that individual now must do because they realize that dog is dependent on them. So it gives them a need for existence and for being here. And I think that is about as powerful as you can get for having people sustaining their own lives because of the impact that they have on that. Outside of their family, outside of their community and all that, it's that battle buddy of theirs that they know that that's who is depending upon them. And I think that's one of the biggest things. All right, next question. Maureen, when you're out and about, and she's looking at me like, what? When you're out and about, what's some of the biggest challenges that you face in public when you and Prince are out just on your daily walks, when you're shopping, going to dinner? What's some of the biggest challenges that you have experienced over the years with the public's viewpoint of you and Prince?
Well, the first problem is he's gorgeous. And everyone wants to touch him and don't understand. You say, well, he's working, but they're like, what? He's just standing there. No, that's work for him. He's watching me. He knows when it's time to push me into a chair because I've got so much fatigue. And I've had people, actually, I have 4 do not pets around his collar, and he has this vest. And I actually had a woman come up and say, "Service dog, do not pet." "Oh, that's so cute." And then she pet him. And I'm like, you can't even pretend that you're illiterate or you don't speak English. You just read it out loud. I know.
That was great.
And so, that is the challenge. And a lot of people don't know the rights of a person with service dog. Yeah, I'm talking about you. Yeah, he's like, what? What's going on? So that can sometimes be a challenge. I try to work with people and restaurants, hotels, things like that, and explain not only their my rights and my responsibilities, but their rights. And you don't have to, if someone says they have a service dog, but they pee all over your floor, you have a right to put them out, that whether they're a service dog or not, And sometimes businesses, I think, it's one way or the other. They either are very welcoming and super, what can we move and how can we, or they're like, no.
Please don't come in, I don't know.
Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, we're coming in. It'll work out, so.
I would say pretty much a lot of those same things. I'm sure we all can sit up here and talk about stories of people not being able to read, and it's mostly adults. I've noticed that kids are probably the best out of all of them. I'm not going to say that it's our school system. I wish it was, but I think their parents are doing a great job in teaching the little ones, but the parents aren't doing a great job in presenting that example of not touching, not petting, and I think at least at Leashes of Valor, we pride ourselves on making sure that if a dog walks in, you don't even know it's there. Because that's the best thing usually for that veteran, so you don't have people coming up. But I've yet to find a really ugly dog that'll be trained well to be able to take out public, so. And I think the one other big thing that I'll make a point of is with us and how I've gone through my career with a service dog, I've actually changed a little bit more to be more helpful to the businesses and the restaurants and those things, because I feel like it's been abused a lot lately, and they're getting a lot of flack, and social media can ruin a business in an instant just for just a complete mistake. So I think that's a couple of things that I've learned.
Yeah, and then like he said, we all have been places where, you can't come in with the dog or, all that stuff that you get. I did have one very good experience, though. I went to a restaurant, and I was with my mother and my grandmother, and the owner came out and said, "Ma'am, I'm sorry you can't have a dog in here." And I said, she's a service dog, and if you go to ada.gov and look, it'll tell you all about them. I could not believe the man went back in his office and looked at it and came back out and said, "Thank you for telling me that. I didn't know that was something I was responsible for." I was like, what planet are you from? Because I have not seen anybody do that before. But I have more problems now with other people. People can't believe the things I tell them. Somebody walked up to me, "What's wrong with you that you need a service dog?" I was like, what? I'm like, did you really just say that to me? And I used to be very bad. I will not lie. When I first got my first service dog, I would just, if somebody said something, now I've gotten to a point where I find a cute little quip to just, at a couple in a restaurant that I could see it. We were walking over to be seated, and I could see it. It's always the husband or the wife, it's always one of them that's got an issue, and she is giving me the business, man. She's looking at me doing all this, and I'm like, "Oh, lady, come on." Of course, we get sit in the booth right behind them. I'm like, all right. And I really tried. She kept going. Her husband's trying to stop her. Finally, she says, "Well, I just can't believe she brought a damn dog in here." That was it. I turned around and I said, "Your husband brought you." My mom's like,
lying to me.
oh my God. My mom's just like, "Oh, jeez." I said, "I think I should go home now." I should go home now. So it's not just the owners and the store. It's like, you get it everywhere. So
Yeah, that's kind of like what we used to call in Ranger School, where you got plus 25 for initiative, but minus 50 for lack of judgment. So,
yeah.
so you kind of go with that one. So hats off.
Yeah, I did. I was like, I need to go home now.
Danique?
I agree with Kira. I think we see a lot more problems nowadays from actual, just other subnormal population going into a store. It's usually not the people actually employed at the store. It's other people getting groceries that think they need to have some kind of vigilante justice, thinking that they know more about service dog training than the person handling the dog. Disrespecting people's personal boundaries and space physically by either petting the dog. We compare it to pregnant belly. You don't just go up into somebody else's personal space and start handling them. And the service animal is an extension of that person as a medical device. So starting to touch somebody's service animal without that person knowing it is definitely a huge violation of your personal space. And we see that a lot more. Same with digital devices. Recording someone, filming someone that is using a service animal is extremely invasive of their personal space and privacy. So I think we see a lot of that. And I think the other...
What was your analogy? That's pretty fitting.
All right, my favorite analogy, if you want to know what to say or not say to someone handling a service dog, instead of the word service dog, use boobs. And if it sounds inappropriate with the word boobs, don't say it to a person with a service dog. I'm not going to give you examples, test it at home. But it's a good gauge on, if that's okay or not.
Can I pet York? Can I take a picture of York?
Try it out at home in front of the mirror, see how it sounds. If it's not okay, don't use it in public. Thank you for my TED Talk. And the other thing I think we're seeing a lot of issues nowadays is actually employers. So as veterans, especially in the veterans community, as veterans are really trying to transition into their next phase in life, for many of them, getting a service animal is just one tiny stepping stone in your transition to next chapter in life. However, if it's hard for you to get hired somewhere, or you have to worry about your economic security because you're not sure if someone is going to give you a position because of your service animal, or if people overstep in the HR process when they're hiring someone. So I think that's where we see a lot of confusion, pushback, and apprehension from employers is, what do I do hiring someone with a service animal? What regulations are there, and what should I know? So that's where a lot of our veterans now are running into more issues, is finding employment, keeping employment, or requesting the accommodation of having a service animal at existing employment. I'm sure you have some fun stories to share. At least give us the one big one.
I think the one big one was I was in line in Costco, and what was it, a month into having him? And there was a lady, I was convinced she was talking to a toddler. Look at the dog. Look, oh my God, can you see him? She's FaceTiming someone and turned the camera to pretty much record us. I don't really know how I stayed in the store or how I didn't go off on her. That's a big problem in public. But depending on the day, I could be the problem. Whether or not I am going to react to what someone does or says. Sometimes it's just that you've been asked 3 or 4 times, you have a dog, why do you have a dog? Or can I pet him? And it's just that last one that's going to set you off.
Yep.
Well, one of the things that I've been thinking leading veterans moving forward is, from my experience in working with, and you heard in the introduction about the National Committee for Employer Support of the Guard and Reserve, and that's a department out of the Department of Defense whose sole mission is to encourage employers to hire Guard and Reservists and make sure that they're not discriminated against, that everybody comes and they have playing grounds. There's laws that are out there that governs rights for employers and guards to work, and if they get deployed, to have the right to come back to their job. How I can use that in dealing with businesses that y'all alluded to that have this pre-notion of, whether they admit it or not, an element of discrimination, where it's kind of the bias and the unknown bias. It's how do they work around that when they see a potential employee come in with a service dog? So what's those triggering mechanisms that HR person or that interview person, how does that work out? What is it that we can use based on the experiences of that type of organization that we might be able to translate? And once I kind of get through that, I'll be happy to share. Because my next question is to Maureen. Now that we've talked about these kind of instances that go on all the time, from where people walk up to say, I don't see why you need a dog, you look fine to me. Or, cute dog, don't know what it's doing, but it's just the cutest dog in the world, can I pet it like Prince? And we went through that with the training with Prince, because even today, when I walk into the training center, I'm surrounded by dog love. And if anybody asks me what's the hardest part of my job, it's ignoring the dogs. That is the hardest element for my job, from the morning till I leave in the evening, is to walk by all these beautiful animals and ignore them. That's a killer for a dog lover. But Maureen, what are some of the things that organizations like ours, what's something that you might think of, if any, that we might be able to do to kind of help combat this?
It seems like there are public service announcements for all kinds of things. Get your flu shot, get your COVID shot, get your mammogram, and they're put up by the ad council or whoever, sort of public service, like everybody in the public should know this. And if there's a way to create something like that with a group of organizations, just a reminder, poster in a school, Metro ad, something, that says, when you see a service dog, please don't touch, or don't ask questions. Or I sometimes say to people, if you would say that to my wheelchair, you can say it to my dog. If you would walk up and pet my wheelchair, you can pet my dog. If you come up and say, wow, it's the Cutest wheelchair I've ever seen, man. That's the cutest thing. Where'd you get that wheelchair? It's really nice. I wish I had one like that. Can I get a picture of it? Because I've never seen a wheelchair like this. If you're willing to say that to someone in public, yeah, sure, go ahead. But I haven't met anyone who's ready. It's a bit like me telling Prince, who likes to sniff people sometimes. I remind him, the rule is this. If the person sniffs you